Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to talk about the brand new foundation and primer from Fenty Beauty. So if that is something you're interested in watching, then you are in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Alright, you guys, so the famous Fenty Beauty foundation that everybody is talking about. I had to get my hands on it and I had to try it. But first, we needed to try the primer. Now, the brand new primer that came out is the Pro Filter Hydrating Primer. And, of course, it comes in that classic nude pink Fenty Beauty aesthetic that they have going on. I love this aesthetic. I think it's really sleek, very pretty. It's this nude pink with this kind of frosted glass type of component. The actual primer itself is pink. It's a nude pink. It gives your skin this really pretty type of glow. I'll give you guys a close-up of the component and what the product actually looks like here. Now, from a hydration perspective, it's okay. It does okay when it comes to actually hydrating the skin. This primer is more dimethicone heavy. So you're going to get that really dimethicone, silicone feel to it when you put it on the skin. It reminds me a lot of the Smashbox, the classic Smashbox primer that's clear, that's very dimethicone. It reminds me a lot of that, that in the way that it feels. I will say that it also does sink into the skin. So you have glycerin in here and some sodium hyaluronate, but that's pretty far down the list, in addition to the grapeseed oil, which is pretty far down the list. So most of the moisturizing that you're getting is just coming from the glycerin. So it's not an overly hydrating primer, but it does do like what a dimethicone primer will do, as far as just kind of like treating your face like spackle. It just kind of, flattens out any kind of texture that you have on this skin and gives you kind of a smooth base. One thing that I do like about the hydrating primer is that it does sink into the skin fairly quickly, so you don't feel like you have a film or anything like really sticky left over on the skin. It does sink into the skin rather quickly and pretty completely, so I do like that about this primer. And I didn't notice it extending the longevity of the foundation or any foundation very long. Like, I use this with a couple of other foundations in addition to the Fenty foundation, and I don't feel like this extended my foundation wear any longer than anything normally would wear. So I don't feel like this was like a superstar when it came to longevity or anything. But for hydration, it does an okay job. I have other primers that I would really lean on for hydration. I wouldn't lean into this one too much for hydration. I think it's just an okay primer. It's definitely not a pore filling primer. It doesn't really do anything for those of us that have larger pores. It does help a little bit with fine lines and wrinkles and just overall kind of smoothing, any texture that you have on the skin. And it gives you a little bit of moisturizing properties. But there's not a lot of skincare benefits in here as well. To me, it just is, it's like a pink dimethicone or silicone heavy primer, and nothing really stands out about this other than that. It does retail for $32, so it is a little up there considering what it is as far as a primer is concerned. But at the end of the day, if you don't like a matte primer and you want something that is a little less matte on your skin and something that's just going to, help even out your skin's texture, maybe give you a little bit of moisture, then this would work perfect for you. So this is going to be a matter of preference for a lot of people. I am just not that big of a fan of the primer, simply because if they're going to market it as a hydrating primer, then that's what I really want it to do. I really want it to pack a punch when it comes to moisture and really hydrating the skin and prepping it really good for makeup or for foundation. But I definitely have other hydrating primers that I would lean on for that purpose. I wouldn't lean on this particular primer for that. So, not a big fan of the primer. It's just kind of okay. Now let's get into the foundation. So here she is, typical outer packaging for Fenty Beauty, that kind of black and white, really kind of couture outside packaging, and then the inside is that minimalist, very sleek, kind of nude outside packaging. It is just in a plastic tube, whereas the other Pro Filter was in a glass bottle. This one just comes in a squeezy tube. It does have a pump on the end of it. Now, my shade in the other formulation is 230. So this is shade 230. They do say in all of their marketing materials that if you know your shade in the first Fenty Pro Filter foundation, then that's going to be your exact shade in the Hydrating foundation. So that does make it a lot easier for those of us that already know our shade. So, and I did find that to be the case for the most part. There are a couple of things that are a little bit different when it comes to the color of this foundation, however. I did notice upon first application that it does look like it's a little bit too light for my skin, but then after it dries down and really sets onto the skin, it actually does look like the 230 does. Now, having said that, when it also set down on the skin, it also had this kind of orangey, I want to say, undertone to it. I'm not sure really what that was, but it does have a kind of a funky undertone to it when it dries down. It just looks, there's a weird little tint to it that makes it kind of look a little warm on the skin. I'm not really sure what that is, considering that this is a neutral color and my other foundation doesn't do that. So I'm not real sure where that weird tint is kind of coming from, especially because it's a warm tint. So I'm not sure what's doing that in the formula, but I definitely noticed more of a warmer tint once it dried down on this skin. So just beware of that. Not that you could really do anything about that. It's just something that happens when this particular formula oxidizes. But I do want to go ahead and show you guys what this looks like close up, just so you can see the consistency of it and you can see what 230 looks like while I tell you about the actual formula. So they're claiming that this is wonderful for hydration, that everybody's going to like this one because not only is it hydrating, but it's going to make your skin just look luminous and natural and healthy. It is just really going to be a powerhouse for dry skin. And so I was really excited about this particular foundation because of that. They really do bill this product as first of its kind, hydrating, long wear, fully flexible hydrating foundation. So who wouldn't be excited about that? So I was really excited. Now, I find that the original foundation from Fenty, the matte version, is just way too drying for my skin and I can't wear it. So I was really excited about this particular foundation. So I tried it on and oh, you guys, I don't like this foundation and I'm so upset that I don't, and I am probably just not in the popular opinion out there. This one just didn't work good for me at all. So my biggest complaint about this particular foundation is that I feel this foundation. It feels very makeup-y on the skin. It feels very heavy. She feels thick when she comes out on the skin. The only way that I found it to be really tolerable was just buffing it out with a brush and then going over that with a damp beauty blender and pretty much shearing the formula out to the point that there's not just a whole lot of it left on the skin. And so, I mean, I didn't like the way this felt. It felt very heavy to me, which to me made me think that there was probably a lot of silicone or dimethicone top heavy ingredients in this formula, and I was right. So another thing that kind of aggravated me a little bit when it came to this formula is after I wore it for a couple of days, I also noticed that it started breaking apart in different areas on the skin. It would separate specifically around areas where I had any texture or blemishes around my nose, my chin. Those kinds of places were the first places that it was pulling apart. The first foundation didn't do that, but this one did. That was disappointing. Also, it does really emphasize pores for me. Anytime I put this on my skin, my pores right here, the nose area, and especially my pores on my cheek, which are usually not emphasized by even foundations that do tend to emphasize my pores. They typically only emphasize my pores around like this area. Very rarely do I ever get a foundation that actually will emphasize like even the pores on my forehead and my cheeks. But this one, you can even see it just really exacerbate the pores that I have on the cheek area, which I'll show you guys close up during the application process. Actually, let's just go into application here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about when it comes to application. Even in application, I found it difficult to really build the product up without it just already beginning to kind of pull apart. I'll show you application here. So I did find that the best way to apply this is with a brush first. It's just easier to really buff the formulation into the skin and then go over it with a beauty blender just to really press it into the skin. I really like the look of application, as good as it's going to get anyway with this particular formula. I really liked that application process the best. But I will say the one thing that I found funny was in videos or looking at myself in a viewfinder, it does look really pretty, but when you look at yourself like in real life outside, or if you look at yourself in real life in a mirror, it doesn't look as good as it does when it comes to film work. When you're looking at a camera, when you're looking, far away, then it looks really pretty. But when you look in real life in a mirror, yeah, it's not a good thing. It's one of those where when you get ready at your vanity in the morning in the mirror, you think you look great, and then you go out into your car and you flip down the visor and you go, oh my God, I overdid it with my makeup. This is that kind of a foundation. You're going to go outside and flip down your visor and go, oh no, what did I do? It looks great on camera. And I purposely haven't watched reviews of this particular foundation because I didn't want to be slanted on my thoughts and opinions about this. So I bet there are a lot of people on camera that this really looks good on. Even in the application process, you can see me applying it, and it doesn't look that bad until you pull the camera up close and really get it into the skin, and you can really just see how it just lays funny on the skin. And I don't know why that is. I'm not really sure. And it does that with or without the primer. I noticed that hydrating primer that they have put out with this particular foundation doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect the way this foundation performs or goes on one way or the other. If you have the primer on or not, this foundation does the same thing. And that is it just doesn't look good. It feels very heavy. It pulls apart very quickly. It doesn't wear very good throughout the day. It gets heavier throughout the day. It turns warmer from like a color perspective throughout the day. It starts to get like a little warmer looking. It'll start to get those kind of orange undertones to it. And I just don't like it. It's just not a good formula. And I wasn't really sure why, because again, in the description, this formula has about 40 ingredients in it. And in the description, it says this has got sodium hyaluronate in it. This has grapeseed oil in it. And, it's kind of touting all of these really good ingredients. So I really had very, very high hopes when it came to this foundation. However, when you actually look at the ingredients, so it has about 40 ingredients. Of those 40 ingredients, the first one, of course, is water. The second ingredient is talc, which for me explains that heaviness feeling, or feeling like you have on kind of that cakey, heavy foundation. You're getting that from the second ingredient in this product being talc. And I'm surprised that it didn't cake up on me. That's the one thing that it didn't really do, is it didn't cake up on me. But then again, I used a brush and really buffed it in. If you don't do that, I wouldn't be surprised if you found this foundation caking up like here and in your smile lines and things like that. Any kind of expression lines, you might get some settling and caking if you just like apply it with a beauty blender and you don't take the time to really buff it in, because talc is the second ingredient. And then, you know, you have a lot of silicones and you have a lot of dimethicones. So the whole top of the 40 ingredients is just very talc and silicone dimethicone heavy. So that's the whole top half. Now, out of these 40 ingredients, you have to go all the way down to the bottom 15 ingredients before you even see the sodium hyaluronate. You have to go to the bottom 10 ingredients before you see any of the triglycerides, the bark extract, the grapeseed oil, all of those good for you ingredients that you really want in a formulation. You see them at the very bottom of the list in the bottom 10 ingredients. So, not a fan. And once you look at the formula, you can kind of figure out why it's doing what it's doing on the skin. So, for me, you guys, this one is going to be a pass. I can't recommend the Fenty Beauty Hydrating long wear foundation to you guys. I just can't. Not in good conscience. Now, keep in mind that everybody's skin chemistry is different. So, this may not work good for me. However, it may work amazingly good for you. So all I can do is just tell you guys what my experience is and show you the footage that you guys can see for yourself so you guys can make an educated decision, including knowing all the facts about the formula. It does retail for $35 if I'm not mistaken, but you do get a full fluid ounce of product, so you're not getting gypped on any product or anything, so you do have that. Now, when it comes to the actual primer, you know, the primer's okay. It's just, if you're just looking for a, you know, a dimethicone primer, I can think of a lot of other ones out there that are cheaper. So I think that you could probably get a smoothing primer for a lot less money. If you really want a hydrating primer, I can give you a lot of hydrating primers out there that have much better ingredients and do a much better job when it comes to genuinely hydrating the skin. Charlotte Tilbury's Magic Cream is probably one of the best hydrating skin prep products on the market. You know what? The Too Faced Hangover 3-in-1 primer, great hydrating product with a lot of really good for you ingredients in that primer, and it really will just quench your skin's thirst if your skin is really dry. That is an amazing hydrating primer. So yeah, Laura Mercier makes an amazing hydrating primer. Jouer also makes an amazing hydrating primer that have ingredients in them that are genuinely good hydrating ingredients and not just, you know, kind of stuck in there at the bottom of the list just so you can say there's some grapeseed oil in here. Yeah, no, but that's it, you guys. That's kind of my thoughts on the Fenty release. I'm so disappointed. This was one that I was really rooting for. I really wanted to like this. It comes in 50 shades, you guys. That is the one thing you have to say about Fenty, is they do it right when it comes to their shade range. Everybody can find their perfect skin match and their perfect color. I just wish I liked the products more. Unfortunately for me, I just don't like the products very much. So this one was a bust, guys, unfortunately. You know what, though? If you've tried it and you've had a really good experience with it, let me know what worked for you down in the comment section below. And maybe I can try some different techniques that I haven't tried with this one to make it work. Although I've tried priming it, I've tried not priming it. I even started using some of my like powerhouse primers to see if I could really get this foundation to work on my skin. My skin just doesn't like this foundation. It really just pushes it apart and breaks it apart really quickly. So it must just be my face. My face doesn't like it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work for me. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this particular product down in the comment section below. I always like to hear your thoughts and what you guys think about it. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think down there. I would be curious to get a conversation going in the comment section below. I'm wondering what the popular opinion is on this one. Is everybody loving it? Is everybody hating it? Make a comment down in the comment section below and we'll get a conversation going. If you guys have any questions for me, always reach out on Instagram. You can find me over at Erica Approved. You can come over there and be a member of the Approved crew. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you stopped by. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Other than that, I hope everybody is very happy and very healthy, and I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah.